In the vast, unforgiving deserts of northern Arizona, there's a place where silence speaks louder than words. Iron Mesa Ranch, a tactical shooting range where the echo of gunfire marks the rhythm of life. Veterans train, civilians learn, and for the most part, peace reigns. But that peace was shattered the moment Eliza Rayne arrived. A woman with a past buried in secrets, a past that refused to stay hidden. What began as a simple shot on a quiet range would ignite a chain of events that no one, least of all, Jake Mason, was prepared for. Iron Mesa Ranch was always quiet. The kind of quiet that came with the vast Arizona landscape barren, expansive, and uninterrupted. A tactical shooting range, nestled among the jagged hills and sparse desert shrubs. It was a place where veterans sharpened their skills. Civilians came to learn, and peace was usually the unwritten rule. But peace was fleeting. Peace was shattered the moment Eliza Rayne walked through the gate. Jake Mason had run Iron Mesa for years, a former Army engineer turned ranch owner who found solace in the simple rhythm of life. Set up the targets, keep the lanes clear, and let the sound of gunfire fill the air. That was all. No drama, no distractions, just men and women, looking to hone their craft or push their limits in a safe, controlled environment. It had been like that. Until Eliza came. She arrived alone, dressed in a faded jacket, a camouflage cap pulled low, and carrying nothing more than a small black case. At first glance, she seemed like any other visitor, just another face blending into the crowd. But something about her felt different. She wasn't there to talk, to make small talk with the regulars. She was there to shoot. Jake noticed her from the corner of his eye. As she made her way to lane 13, one of the more isolated, less used lanes on the range. He saw her set up without ceremony. She didn't look like she was trying to impress anyone. She didn't need to. When she picked up the .308 bolt-action rifle, the silence around her thickened. The world seemed to hold its breath as she aimed. 600 yards, no scope, just iron sights. The shot rang out, a perfect bullseye, right in the center. It wasn't just a good shot. It was a record-setting shot. The kind of shot that made even the most seasoned veterans pause and wonder what the hell they'd just witnessed. The kind of shot that even Brandon Keene, the self-proclaimed 5-time state champion, couldn't comprehend. Brandon had always been the king of the range. His ego was as big as his gun collection, and he'd made sure everyone knew it. But when Eliza Rayne fired that single shot, it wasn't just a challenge to Brandon's ego, it was a challenge to everything he thought he knew about the world. The man was speechless. For the first time in his life, he was outdone, and he didn't like it. But Eliza didn't stick around for the applause. She calmly walked away, leaving behind a stunned silence and a viral video that would shake the foundation of Iron Mesa. The footage, posted online by one of the other shooters, spread like wildfire. It was undeniable Eliza had shattered the old record, and the entire internet was talking about it. That was just the beginning. 2 weeks earlier, a local homeowners association HOA had booked a leadership retreat at Iron Mesa. Jake had reluctantly agreed, knowing it would bring in some extra cash. But Brandon, the HOA's leader, had turned the retreat into an ego-driven display of dominance. He strutted around like a war hero, telling everyone how he was the best shot in the state. It was the kind of pompous attitude that grated on Jake's nerves. But he didn't say anything he didn't need to. Eliza, though, didn't care about Brandon or his retreat. She was there for one reason: to shoot. And when she fired that perfect shot, it wasn't just about proving a point. It was about something deeper, something much bigger than a shooting competition. Eliza disappeared before anyone could get her name. All they had was Ray. And for days, the question hung in the air: who was this woman and why had she chosen Iron Mesa? Jake was no closer to an answer when she returned, 2 weeks later, to the same lane, the same silence. But this time, there was more at stake than just a record. That's when General Hartley appeared. The retired Marine sniper instructor stepped out of the shadows, his weathered face unreadable. He knew Eliza. He had trained her, and he wasn't the only one who recognized her. As he approached Jake, he spoke with the kind of authority that made you listen, even when you didn't want to. "That wasn't luck," Hartley said, his voice low. "That was memory." Before Jake could ask what he meant, the sound of tires crunching on gravel interrupted the moment. A black SUV appeared, kicking up dust in its wake. Federal agents. And they weren't here for just a friendly chat. Eliza wasn't just a mystery. She was someone the government had thought was dead, missing, gone. Her name was Eliza Rayne, and she had been a part of a classified mission called Operation Nightwave, a mission that had gone wrong. Her unit had uncovered a covert arms deal involving corrupt U.S. officials and a warlord overseas. The truth was too dangerous to be known. So, the mission was buried. And so was Eliza. But Eliza hadn't stayed buried. Now, she was back, and she was carrying the proof. A drive with names, transactions, and evidence that could bring down the most powerful people in the country. And those people wanted her and that drive dead. The first sign of trouble came that night. Someone shattered the window of Jake's barn and spray-painted "You don't belong here" on the wall. It was a warning. Eliza wasn't surprised. "This wasn't Brandon," she said, her eyes narrowing as she inspected the damage. "This was someone worse." The next day, they came. A small army of men in tactical gear, moving through the tree line, their rifles raised. They fired suppressed rounds. The sound barely a whisper as the bullets tore through the air. Eliza didn't flinch. She returned fire, dropping one of them from 800 yards away. The chaos unfolded quickly, flashbangs, smoke, and blood. Jake fired back. Close range, taking down one of the assailants who had tried to rush the porch. Eliza was injured, but she kept moving. They were after the drive, and Jake was determined to make sure they didn't get it. Then Carter Sloan appeared. Carter was Eliza's former handler, a slick man, dressed in a tailored suit, his silenced pistol in one hand. He was the kind of person who could destroy entire legacies with a smile. And he was here to clean up the mess, to take the drive. "Give me the drive," Carter said, his voice cold, "and disappear." Eliza didn't flinch. She wasn't afraid of him anymore, not after everything she'd been through. She called him what he was, a traitor. When he raised his gun, he didn't fire first. General Hartley did. The shot rang out, clean and precise, and Carter Sloan crumpled to the ground, his spine shattered. The agents moved in, securing the scene. The drive was real, the evidence undeniable, and they took it to federal oversight, where the truth would no longer be hidden. Jake's ranch was scorched. One fuel shed gone, but they were alive. That night, as Eliza sat beside the smoldering remains of the ranch, Jake asked her why she stayed, why she had returned after all these years. She smiled faintly, her eyes distant. "Because you saw me," she said. "Not what I did, not what they said I was, just me." The next morning, Eliza returned to Lane 13. She set up her shot, took 3 slow breaths, and fired once more. Not to prove anything, but to release everything, for the first time in years. She wasn't just surviving. She was living again.